Messi flying forward. Leo Messi!
United. Rafael Guerrero with the cross. Ronaldo.
It wasn't quite a great weekend for Nigerian teams regarding the round of the game, and that's football. And that's because Nigeria's Flying Eagles suffered a 4-1 defeat to Burkina Faso's Young Stallions in the final of the 2026 WAFU Zone B Under-20 Championship at the Stade Charles Konan Bani in Yamoussoukro, Ivory Coast, on Sunday. And a new champion will emerge at the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco after the defending champions Super Falcons of Nigeria were eliminated by Cameroon in the quarterfinals on Sunday. Of course, Nigeria started the campaign on a very wrong foot, but then picked up the pieces against Zambia in the second game and saw off Egypt remarkably in the last group game, but got into the quarters and eventually lost to Cameroon a goal to nothing. And Zambia striker Barbara Banda is the highest goal scorer so far at the tournament. They're talking about the Women's Africa Cup of Nations ongoing in Morocco ahead of the semi-final fixtures on Wednesday. What's it like going into that very one? And on that note, I say welcome to Sports 360 right here on CEM Television. I'm Danny Mino, the voice you trust and that mayor you probably need. They call me Rex Patrick the Local, that's homeboy that's never at home. I look around 247-365. I'm your host and guide. Now let's look at some fencing where 16-year-old Ogenegaren Esiova Thompson made history at the Commonwealth Fencing Championships on Sunday, winning Nigeria's first ever gold medal in the men's under-23 EP at Rugby School, Nigeria in Atlantic City, Lagos. Competing for Nigeria for the first time after switching allegiance from England, the 16-year-old stunned the field, brushing aside 3 Indian opponents on his way to the podium. To claim the crown, Esiova Thompson produced a masterclass in the final, defeating Asian champion Lokesh Vamani of India 15-5. The Nigerian teenager showed composure and class against his more experienced rival, while India's Godwin Natarajan and Ashwini Shurya settled for bronze medals. His path to glory was nothing short of dominant. Beginning in Pool 4, he swept through unbeaten to top the group, earning a bye into the round of 16. There, he dispatched South Africa's Karabo Mathebole 15-7 before overwhelming India's Shivaj Kapoor 15-2 into quarterfinals. The semi-final brought a stenner test against Ashwini Shurya, but backed by the roar of the home crowd. Esiova Thompson edged through 15-11 to set up his final showdown with Vemani. Before pledging allegiance to Nigeria, Esiova Thompson had already tasted international success, winning gold in the under-13 boys' AP at the 2022 Bratislava Challenge and bronze in the cadet men's AP team event in Naples while representing England. Elsewhere at the championship, England's Oliver Strange claimed the first gold medal of the tournament, defeating India's Manoj Patil in the men's under-23 foil final, while India's Singh Sanasam and England's Thomas James took bronze. From fencing now, let's move on to cricket, where, just so you know, Nigeria's junior Yellow Greens made a false start to the 2018 ICC Under-19 Men's T20 World Cup Africa Division 2 qualifier, suffering a 5-wicket defeat to Uganda in their opening match in Rwanda on Sunday. batting first. Kenneth Boniface top scored for Nigeria with 97 runs, I beg your pardon, of 107 balls. But his effort was not enough to inspire the team as Nigeria batting lineup struggled against Uganda's bowlers. Interestingly, aside from Boniface's innings and Okasha Isiako's 34 runs off 81 balls, none of Nigeria's batters managed to reach double figures as they were bowled out for 176 runs in 45 overs. Player of the match, Felix Okan and Larry Elton, were the Junior Yellow Green Seas chief tormentors, claiming 3 wickets apiece. It was quite a good one right there. Uganda chased down the target in 38.2 overs, finishing on 178 runs for the loss of 5 wickets to secure victory right there. Captain Samuel Ahisibiwe, led Uganda's chase with 72 runs off 90 balls, while Pelumi Orimoloye was Nigeria's most effective bowler, claiming 2 wickets. Right there at that very event. Of course, after the first round of matches on Sunday, Nigeria, Sierra Leone and Mozambique remain without wins, while Rwanda and Ghana also recorded victories in their opening games. The Junior Yellow Greens will hope to bounce back when they face Ghana today, Monday. The top 3 teams from Division 2 qualifier will join Kenya, Namibia and Tanzania in Division 1. From there, let's move on to football, where, interestingly, Nigeria's Flying Eagles suffered a 4-1 defeat to Burkina Faso's Young Stallions in the final of the 2026 WAFU Zone B on the 20 championship at the Star Charles Konan Benin in Yamoussoukro, Ivory Coast, and that was on Sunday. The defeat means Nigeria will miss the 2027 Africa Under-20 Cup of Nations and consequently the 2027 FIFA Under-20 World Cup in Azerbaijan. Burkina Faso, who had already beaten Nigeria 2-0 in the group stage, completed a double over the 7-time African champions to claim the regional title and join host Ghana as WAFU Zone B's representatives at next year's Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations. Nigeria's hopes of revenge evaporated early as Abdul Maikaba's side conceded 3 goals inside the opening 15 minutes of that very one. The Flying Eagles pulled one back from the penalty spot in the second period, but the Stallions were not done, denting any chances of a comeback with a late goal. The defeat also ended Nigeria's hopes of retaining the regional title, the one in Lomé, Togo, back in October 2024. The Young Stallions have also enjoyed the upper hand in recent meetings between the two countries. Their 2024 WAFU Zone B encounter in Lomé ended in a 1-0 victory for Burkina Faso, while the sides played out a 2-2 draw when they met in Niger Republic, and that was back in 2022. The Flying Eagles had entered the final seeking to retain their regional crown and secure one of the zone's 2 places at the 2027 Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations. Sadly, they've been knocked out. It wasn't quite a good weekend for football Nigerian teams, from WAFU B Under-20 Championship to the ongoing Women Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco, where new champion will emerge. A new champion will emerge at the 2026 Women Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco, and that's after Morocco defeated defending champions Nigeria. Of course, they had them eliminated from a tournament by not Morocco, but Cameroon had Nigeria knocked out of the tournament in the quarterfinals on Sunday. So it was quite a good outing for the Cameroonian side. Nigeria looked for an immediate response a minute later when Rashidat Ajibade delivered a dangerous cross into the area. But Gift Monday was unable to make a clean connection after Cameroon had dealt comfortably with the initial threat. Of course, the Super Falcons continued to push forward and came close again. And that was in the 28 minutes of that encounter. Reinshola Babajide's delivery found Jennifer Eshegine in a promising position, but her effort was well saved as Cameroon protected their slender advantage. Despite Nigeria enjoying spells of possession and creating some really big situations, Cameroon remained organized at the back and carried their 1-0 lead into the halftime break. Nigeria emerged for the second half with even greater urgency in search of an equalizer, but found Cameroon goalkeeper Michele Bihina inspired. Yeah, she was really outstanding. She was in a really good mood for that encounter. The shot stopper produced one of the saves of the tournament, and that was in the 70th minute of that encounter, stretching out a strong hand to deny Uchenna Kanu's powerful header and preserve a side's lead. And of course, Cameroon nearly doubled their advantage, and that was 6 minutes from time when Ashta Njoya's well-struck free kick from a tight angle forced Nadiozie Chiamaka into a sharp save, with the Nigerian goalkeeper tipping the effort over the crossbar to deny the Cameroonians, from getting a second in that very encounter. The defending champions, Nigeria, threw everything forward in the closing stages and almost forced an extra time through substitute Esther Okoronkwo, who was there for the asking but gave no answer whatsoever. After using her pace to beat her marker, Okoronkwo sent a left-footed effort agonizingly wide of the post. Of course, with substitute Asisa Rushuala waiting for a simple layoff beside her. Cameroon held firm through the final minutes to seal a memorable victory, eliminating the 10-time champions and punching their tickets to the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup in Brazil. Now, following Nigeria's defeat, the Super Falcons will face South Africa on Thursday, for a place in the Interconfederation World Cup playoffs, with a fixture determining one of Africa's representatives at the qualifying tournament. Of course, it's a good way to go about business. For the most part, I tell you, for what it's worth, Super Falcons of Nigeria got into the tournament with so much energy, looking to retain their crown and win a record extending 11th Women Africa Cup of Nations title, but just couldn't make it count at this very edition right there in Morocco, on the backdrop of what we saw the last time in 2024, where they came from 2 goals down in the final to beat host nation, talking about Morocco, 3-2 to lift a 10th Women Africa Cup of Nations title. This time, they got into the quarters against a really good Cameroonian side, but then they were the better of the two going into that very one. Just couldn't make it count, as they were made to pay dearly, for not being really solid, creating big situations and making it count. So Cameroon through to the last 4 of the event. All right. Meanwhile, we'll still get to talk about, look at in a bit, we'll look at teams who have made it to the last 4 and the chances of going into the semi-finals. All right. Before then, let's tell you that Zambia striker Barbara Banda is the highest goal scorer at the ongoing CAF Women's Africa Cup of Nations (WAFCON) ahead of the semi-final on Wednesday. Of course, Banda has got 5 goals to her name, and she's 1 goal ahead of Ivory Coast Ines Konan. The 26-year-old will not play in the WAFCON semi-final stage after the Copper Queens failed to qualify from the group stage. But then, she's still the top scorer. Algeria will face Malawi in the semi-final on Wednesday evening, while Morocco will tackle Cameroon in the other semi-final fixture. So, it promises to be really, really exciting. And, 2026 WAFCON's highest goal scorer so far ahead of the Wednesday semi-final fixtures. Let's look at that in full. Some players who have really made it count so far the tournament. For Barbara Banda, she's from Zambia, 5 goals to her name. Ines Konan of Ivory Coast has got 4 goals to her name. And then we got Thembi Gatlana of South Africa with 3 goals. She's followed by Temwa Shawinga of Malawi, who has also scored 3 goals. And we got Mary Inga of Cameroon with 3 goals as well. She's got a chance of even finishing as a top scorer at the tournament. Cameroon are through to the semi-finals. Marin Dafo of Algeria has got 2 goals to her name. Sakina Orawi has got 2 goals. She's from Morocco. And then Uchenna Kanu of Nigeria has got 2 goals at the tournament. Rashidat Ajibade has got 2 goals as well. All right, so Asisa Oshoala, 2 goals to her name. And you know, that's the story regarding top scorer so far at the ongoing Women Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Now let's look at the playoff. The 4 teams that will fight for 2 spots at Interconfederation playoffs in a bid to qualify for the 2027 Women's World Cup have been confirmed. This follows the completion of the quarterfinal matches at the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations, WAFCON, on Sunday. Just so you know, all the countries that will be involved in the African playoffs, let's look at that in full. You know, they are Nigeria, South Africa, Ivory Coast, and Ghana. The Super Falcons will take on the Bayana, the girls of South Africa, while the Black Queens face the Lady Elephants of Ivory Coast. The 2 winners will take part in the 10-nation intercontinental playoffs in November and, of course, December. Out of those 10 countries, 3 will qualify for the 2027 World Cup, in Brazil. So let's look at, you know, the story in full, you know, because the race for the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup is gathering pace and momentum, with 18 of the 32 places at the tournament now secured, with qualification battles continuing across the world. 5 confederations have already produced their confirmed representatives, setting the stage for a highly competitive tournament in South America, Brazil precisely, next year. Africa sends 4. Africa's qualification campaign has produced 4 teams. We're talking about Algeria, Cameroon, Malawi, and Morocco. Brazil will host the tournament, while Algeria, Cameroon, and Malawi, and of course Morocco, have secured their places among the world's elites. Their qualification represents a major moment for women's football on the continent. It's something to build on going forward for what it's worth. Asia completes its allocation. Now, Asia has filled all 6 of its available places at next year's tournament. We're talking about Australia, China, Japan, North Korea, Philippines, and South Korea will represent the Asian Football Confederation at the tournament. The Philippines' qualification is particularly significant as the team continues to establish itself among Asia's leading women's football nations. European giants, have also qualified. Some European giants. Europe has so far confirmed 4 teams. They are Denmark, France, Germany, and Spain. The European qualification race, however, remains far from over, with 7 additional places still to be decided. So, France, Germany, and Spain arrive with strong tournament pedigrees, while Denmark will be looking to make it mark on the global stage next summer in Brazil. So, the New Zealand leads Oceania. So, New Zealand has secured Oceania's sole direct place at the tournament. So the football fans will once again carry the region's hopes into the world's biggest women's football tournament, talking about the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup. South America makes its mark. South America has also completed its direct allocation, with Argentina, Brazil, and Colombia qualifying for the tournament. Brazil automatically take their place as tournament hosts, while Argentina and Colombia have earned their spots through South America's qualification progress. So it's expected to be a remarkable one. Brazil will now prepare to welcome the world's best women's teams for what promises to be a landmark tournament on home soil. So 14 places remain, with 18 teams qualified and 14 places still available. So the final lineup is beginning to take shape ahead of next year. Europe has got 7 places still to fill, while CONCACAF has got 4 direct places available. A further 3 teams will earn their tickets through the Interconfederation playoff route. For the teams still chasing qualification, the margin for error is shrinking as the day goes by. The 2027 Women's World Cup will bring together established powerhouses, emerging nations and debutants, with Brazil set to provide the stage for another chapter in the rapid growth of women's football. The qualified teams, we wait to see what happens at the end of it all. For Africa, I've got a strong representation. I'll say these are some of the best teams so far. I tell you, you look at Algeria, you look at Cameroon, Malawi, similarly the dark horses, just like we had Cape Verde from Africa at the just concluded FIFA Men's World Cup in USA, Mexico, and Canada. This time, Malawi, they are debutants. So it's crazy, right? So they're also debutants, same as Cape Verde, the Men's World Cup in USA, Mexico, and Canada. Morocco are strongly in the conversation, host of the current Women's Africa Cup of Nations, and they got a strong place through to the last 4 of the tournament on home soil, through to the World Cup as well, and looking to give Africa a really good representation. Asian teams are also in the conversation. Over time or recent history, we've seen them stepping up to the plate. Australia would come pretty good. China are prepped up as well. Japan strongly in the conversation as usual. North Korea very ready. Philippines are looking to pull an upset, and then South Korea have also got enough in the tank to deliver. In Europe, 4 teams show already. Yeah, 7 more would follow. The 4 already confirmed. Denmark, France. Oh, you know the story. These are really good teams. You talk about France, for instance. They got some of the best legs so long as women football is concerned. Denmark would also have a strong representation. Germany strongly in the conversation. And when you say Spain, the next thing is, hey, be careful. Because, they are strongly in the conversation as expected. Oceania won, and that's New Zealand. So the All Blacks will come into the tournament on the right foot. South American teams would also give a good account of themselves. We're talking about Argentina, host nation Brazil, and of course Colombia. They are expected to come all out and ensure that they give others a really good run for their monies. Now, let's move on to some story making the rounds in Europe regarding club football, as we tell you that Kelechi Iheanacho made a flying start to life in Turkey, scoring and providing an assist as Bursaspor began the 2026-2027 campaign with a 2-0 away victory over Bodrum on Sunday. Iheanacho completed a free transfer to the Turkish second-tier club that was back in July, ending months of speculation over his future after an impressive loan spell at Celtic last term. Despite being hampered by injuries, the Super Eagles forward scored 9 goals and played an important role as Celtic secured a domestic double, prompting the Scottish champions to explore the possibility of extending his stay. However, negotiations eventually broke down, paving the way for Bursaspor to sign the former Leicester City striker on a 3-year contract. The 29-year-old immediately showed what he could offer. His new club on his debut, opening the scoring in the 27th minute with a simple finish before setting up a teammate on the stroke of half-time to double Bursaspor's advantage. The victory put Bursaspor second in the early Turkish second-tier standings as they begin their campaign with ambitions of securing promotion back to the Super League for the 2027-2028 season. Iheanacho had previously outlined his ambitions with the club, saying he was attracted by Bursaspor's plans to return to the top flight and eventually compete in European competitions. So that's a target. So he had to leave several other top division sides and settle for a second-tier side in Bursaspor. We wait to see if Iheanacho would rediscover himself, get back to the level he once was. Back at Leicester City, from Manchester City to Leicester and all of that. So it's not been quite a right. But last time we saw him at Celtic in the Scottish Premiership. Of course, he was phenomenal for the side. The question is, will Kelechi Iheanacho rediscover himself? Will he get back to the level he once was? That's one question. It's a tricky one, yeah? Moving to a second-tier side in Turkey. But hey, the impossible, like I always say, takes a little longer. From there now, let's look at some of the one as we tell you that, on the gossip column, France international Lucas Digne has completed a move from Aston Villa to European champions Paris Saint-Germain. The 33-year-old has signed a 3-year deal at Parc des Princes. Digne, who joined Villa from Everton in 2022, spent 3 years with PSG at the start of his career. So he returns to the club after 8 years in England, following PSG's decision to activate a £8.5 million release clause in his contract. Digne is set to provide competition for first-choice left-back Nuno Mendes. The Frenchman joins a Paris Saint-Germain side who have won the UEFA Champions League twice in succession, most recently after beating the Gunners Arsenal on penalties. That was back in the 2026 final. Digne made about 30 appearances for PSG during his first spell before leaving for La Blaugrana FC Barcelona, and that was back in 2016. The left back was part of Villa's side who won the Europa League last season, the club's first major silverware since 1996. He becomes the third senior player to leave Villa Park in the run-up to the new season, following the exits of Morgan Rogers to West London, talking about Chelsea, and Yuri Telemor to the Red Devils, and that's Manchester United. Aston Villa have missed some really key players: Lucas Digne, Morgan Rogers, and of course Yuri Telemor. What's it like for the Unai Emery-led side? Will they get it right going into the new campaign? They won the Europa League last season, qualified for the UEFA Champions League, and it's top-level football going into the new season. Has Unai Emery got enough in the tank to deliver? What's it like for the Lions? Talking about Aston Villa, would they have it pretty tough after on the backdrop of losing some key players? Will others step up to the plate going into the new campaign? Can they be relied on to be as competitive as they were last term? It's a tricky affair, isn't it, at this point in time? Yes, it's really tricky, but that's a story. The new campaign is just, upon us. Teams are beefing up their squads, getting in the best legs, and ensuring that, they build the right synergy going into the new season. Lots of ins, several players out. You then get the synergy right in good time, good enough for the new campaign. Unai Emery, seasoned tactician, he's been there, he's done it time and time again. He knows what's expected of him. But what's it like, really? See some key players, some senior players leaving the side. Key players, quote unquote. Well, only time will tell, you guys. Only time will really tell. Time will tell. Anyways, we just can't go any further, you guys. We just have to put a pin right here on Sports 360 on CEM Television. Been a great time with you out there. Best to believe you are the real MVP. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at CEMTVPLUS. Yeah, that's at CEMTVPLUS on YouTube, Instagram, Threads, X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. Yeah, so at CEMTVPLUS, that's how you get through to us. We'll have you thrilled with some amazing content. Yeah, keep following us, stay woke, get talented, and be sure to always live a life you will remember. I remain Danny Mino, the voice you trust, and that mayor you probably need. Call me Rex Patrick the Locker, that homeboy that's never at home. They say home is where your heart lies. This is home for me, so I look around 247-365. For now, it's a wrap.